And we're going to be talking about today is the importance of a living trust for real estate investors and how you want to make sure that you're preserving your estate going forwards. I get a lot of questions on this, and people are always wondering, what type of a plan should I set up, Clint? I got these LLCs, I got these properties. What should I be doing? And so what I wanted to do was talk about the steps you should be focusing on and why you should be looking at our estate planning when it comes to being a real estate investor, the importance of it. And it really comes back to my own personal life. When I was growing up, both sides of my family were destroyed over poorly drafted estate plans. And it really cemented into me the importance of putting together a plan that ensures that the assets that you are creating now, that they're going to be passed on to your beneficiaries when you're no longer here, and you're not going to create chaos, which has happened so many times. You probably know some people where, when they passed away, the kids started fighting over the assets. That can be a problem, or one child exerts undue influence and takes more than what they're entitled to. So all of these things can come up. And the other questions, problems that you have when it comes to estate planning is that how do we preserve these assets that we've worked on building up so we know that they're going to pass on to multiple generations? And it's not like that scenario where my wife's uncle, when his wife's parents passed away, they inherited some money. What did they do with it? They went out, took that money, sold the house, and bought some fancy new cars. These are things that, they don't follow on what you've been doing. The reason why we're investing is, for many of us, is to create, of course, income, but also to create a legacy of wealth, that these assets can continue to produce income for multiple generations. And in order to ensure that they're going to be there for 2 or 3 generations down the line, you should look at creating a plan around that to make sure that they're going to be protected, that when you're no longer here, that your beneficiaries or your children's children, whoever that is, doesn't look back and say, you know what, I'm going to sell those because I really want to go on a trip to Europe. And they just took what you created in that income stream, that ATM, which that property can be, and blown it because they don't appreciate what it is that you've done. So that's why I think estate planning is so crucial when it comes to real estate investing. It goes hand in hand. And the thing about it is that so many individuals always want to talk about the LLCs, the corporations, and we tend to avoid the other side of it, the estate plan, passing it on, because we don't see that as so much of the protection side. It's like, oh, we can get to that later on. Well, you never know what's going to happen. There's an individual that I golf with, and I say golf lightly because I just started picking up this bad habit less than a year ago, and I'm horrible at it, but they humor me. About a month and a half ago, we were scheduled to go out on Wednesday, what we normally like to do, and he sent us a text to the group, and he said, I can't make it. One of my sons just found out he passed away unexpectedly, and his other son, on the exact same day, riding a motorcycle, was hit by a car and put in the emergency room, and they didn't think he was going to make it. So you can appreciate the stress that this individual now is under. But my point is that both of these kids, when I say kids, they're almost my age. One of them had passed away, and the other one was put in the hospital, and they didn't think he was going to make it. He did survive. But things like this can happen on an instant's notice, and you're out there building up these plans and buying this real estate, and then the next thing you know, you're out. Who's going to pick up the pieces? That's why planning is so important. You put so much effort into this, we got to create a plan to protect it. Okay, so what do we want to do then? Let me just go over here to my whiteboard that you always see me draw on. Well, when it comes to planning for real estate investors, I tell people that you can set up the entities. There's no reason why you can't set up LLCs first. So don't make that mistake. Thinking that you have to do this in a specific order. There isn't a specific order about what I'm sharing with you. But what you should be looking at is taking everything that you've created and then putting that into a living trust. Okay, that should be your estate plan. Not a will. I mean, a lot of people think, well, if I just draft a will, I'm going to be fine. I prefer to use living trust because a living trust avoids probate. That's the best reason to do this, and that is to avoid probate. Now, maybe some of you have been through the probate process before, but if you have limited liability companies that you've set up, LLCs that you own right here, and maybe your personal residence is over here, and you have vehicles here, and you have your personal savings account and checking account there, and maybe you've set up another LLC over here to hold your investing cash. All of these assets that you own in your name, all right, because I hold all these in my name. I'm a member of my LLC. I'm an owner of my property. When I pass away, if I've created a will, I'm going to have to go through this probate process here, which is going to require an attorney to step in and handle the estate with whoever executor that I've appointed in my will to ensure that these assets get passed on to my beneficiaries. Or maybe you leave behind a spouse and it's going to go to your spouse. Well, how's she going to feel if there's chaos left in your wake and doesn't know where the assets are, doesn't know how to take control of the assets, and there's an attorney there, of course, charging to dispense this advice, to assist with the passing on of this. So when it comes to thinking about planning, I tell people you want to set up a living trust. You don't want to leave it to a will because you're going to go through the probate process, which the court then is going to step in with the attorney, and they're going to typically, they could drag their feet. And if you're a real estate investor, just think about this. Who's going to start working with the tenants, right? You got the attorney there. Does he have any experience when it comes to dealing with real estate? Probably not, maybe a little. But these are problems that arise, and you could have a tenant stay in your property now for 6 months. They quit paying rent because you're no longer around. And so they figure they don't have to. Or someone shows up at their door and they say, hey, my dad passed away and I'm here to collect rent. I don't know you. I'm not paying you any money. So you can imagine some of the issues that would come, that might arise. So what we want to do is create this living trust. And what is the living trust? Think of it as a box. You create this big box here. We'll call it our living trust. And you're going to set it up while you're alive. And it's another entity. And if I set this up here, I would have myself and my wife. We're going to both be trustees of this trust. And we're going to be beneficiaries of the trust. Now, the trust doesn't offer any asset protection, so this is not an asset protection play while you're alive. I'll explain how it will after you've passed on. But I'm going to create this trust, and that trust is going to have a set of instructions inside of it. So the trusts that we create typically range anywhere from 80 to 120, 130 pages in length, depending on the complexity of the estate plan, as I will explain. And so the purpose of this trust is to take whatever is held inside of it and pass those assets on to your beneficiaries in a manner in which you would like them to receive the assets. So sometimes people refer to this as having control when you're no longer here. Okay, there's great ways to do this through a living trust. You can ensure that your wishes, your desires, your belief systems will continue on when you're no longer here, because your beneficiaries, in order to benefit, will have to abide by the terms of the trust. And so what I'm starting to seed here into this conversation is that we're not going to set it up many times so that when we're gone, the assets go right out to our kids. We're going to, or our beneficiaries, we're going to put some strings. We're going to attach strings to it to ensure that they're going to do the things that we expect of them when we're no longer here, to guide them. So the way the trust works is you create this document, you sign the document, it's not registered anywhere, it's a private document, and then you need to start funding it. Okay, so we need to start putting our assets into it. So many times people come to me and they have an LLC set up here with a rental property into it, they have their personal residence here. So what we'll do is we'll have to assign over, we'll transfer in these assets. So your house would be deeded into your living trust. Or if it's held in a land trust, like I use for asset protection purposes for a personal residence, then we would assign your beneficial interest into your living trust. So your living trust will actually become the member in your LLC. It will become the beneficiary of your land trust. So you're going to do this with all of your titleable assets. And so many times what you'll find is somebody will have a living trust that looks like this. They'll have a Wyoming LLC right here. that has their living trust as a member, and then they're going to have their real estate LLCs up here, all held by that one Wyoming limited liability company. Maybe they have a corporation that they use for property management to manage their assets. That would be in their living trust. So the shareholder of their corp or their LLC taxed as a corporation would list their living trust. And then their land trust would also be inside of there that holds their personal residence. They would put their personal checking account inside of there. So all your titleable assets are going to go into your trust, and it's going to control them. Keep watching, keep yourself protected. Get on my event. I wish you the very best with what you're doing with your investing. Take care, guys. See you soon.